everyone. Welcome back to another week of Evolve. I am your host, Monette Brann-Natta. I am so happy that you've chosen today to come and join us and to share some energy. All month long, we've been talking about a variety of subjects, but today we're going to turn the page to something that we don't always like to talk about, but is sometimes, unfortunately, at any point in our life, it could be a reality for our life, and that is mortality. And what happens after a loved one passes, and what happens to the processing of a family as they dissect what has gone on when you lose someone you love. Whether it be from long-term illness or a sudden and surprising thing, losing a family member can fracture the structure of the remaining family. Today, my guest is going to walk us through what that is like, and we are going to be able to help play a part in maybe helping bring some closure, much needed closure, to a chapter in her family's life. Almost 5 years ago today, the course of an entire family's life was dramatically altered. It was in the blink of an eye. Today, Donette will be sharing about her story and how no matter what happens in our life, we always stay connected in spirit. I'm so happy to have you here today, Donette. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Monette, for having us on the show. I really appreciate that.
I have been wanting to do this before I even had the show to do it. I have wanted to bring some awareness to your family situation and this cause and bring some resolution. So that is my intention. Whenever we set out to do a show, I always ask any guest, what's your intention for the show? What are you intending? What would you like to see happen? And I come with my own intention today for a resolution and for closure for you and your family. But before we get into all of that, so that the guests can catch up with us, can you tell us about who Mr. Kendall Terrell was to you?
My pleasure. Well, Kendall, which we refer to him as Kenny, his close friends and family, they also refer to him as Left Lane's Lefty, Kenny Cash. So he had a few fun names that he liked to go by. Kenny was my nephew, and he was my sister's firstborn. He was the first grandchild of the family, and he was the light of our life. We absolutely adored him. He was like the little man of the house. He was the man of the family. He was 28 years of age. He grew up with me. When I went through my last few years of high school, he was my sidekick. Everywhere I went, he was there.
Yeah.
We had a ball. He was just like he was like my little buddy, literally. Everywhere I went, he went. Everybody knew who he was. Everybody recognized who he was. And like he grew up way before his age. So for me, he wasn't just my nephew. He was my son. He was my best friend. He was my go-to person. And I think my extra special bond that I share with Kenny was he was born the day before me.
Oh, and what day was that?
December 2nd was his birthday, and mine is December 3rd.
Sagittarius in the house.
Yes. So that common bond that we shared, I felt like him and me, only him and I, understood each other.
Okay.
Through a family of Capricorns.
Oh, wow. You all were definitely needed to lighten it up.
Yes. So that was our go-to point where we knew who we were, but we also related with each other.
Right. So you're having him as my buddy. I love that description because we all remember that. My buddy, the little doll.
And that was around his time. Correct.
So Kenny was a real life my buddy. And he was adorable. I've seen the baby pictures to prove it.
God.
He was so fresh all the time. He grows up and he's a young man and he's an adult man, really, at this time in his life, when we're the time that we're moving towards. Can you tell us about Kenny as an adult?
Well, as an adult, Kendall loved life. He loved to get dressed up. He loved to be himself. He was a very loving person. when he started his day, he didn't start his day with just a day. He started the day right. He had to lay out his outfit. He had to look a certain way. He
Right.
had to, and every look that he had, he portrayed that in the way he carried himself. So I say to say, my nephew he was a genius at getting dressed. Every day he chose everything that matched and complemented his outfit. He started from hat to toe. His hat matched his shoes matched his hat, his outfit matched. He was the master of matching. He had a swagger that no one else can repeat or replace.
Absolutely. I've seen
He
it for
carried
myself.
himself with confidence. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I remember coming into the house one time and talking to, just saying hello, and him being like, Mo, you got to check out these gigs. So he was always unboxing.
Yes.
He was always unboxing.
Yes.
He was ahead of the curve in all areas in that regard. He had like the newest, best, freshest of everything all the time.
Absolutely. I believe my nephew used to stay up on his phone and wait for the newest sneakers to drop, meaning before they released.
Right.
And he would wait for those, and they would be overnighted or 2-day as quickly as he can have them.
And in his,
I think he dreamed about his outfit.
I think, well, the way that he looked, and it was an art, you know, I'm an artist, and Kenny really was an artist in his own haberdashery. He really was. So that is something he had hands down, but he also did really important work. And that's something that I was always struck by with him, because he was fun and he was relatable and he was funny. That's one thing. He was super funny, but he was doing this work that I just was so impressed with. Can you tell us about that, Donette?
Absolutely. Kenny was a very giving, caring person. So he chose his path on his work relation to be, to give 100% and devote his life to children that has disorders. I wouldn't say handicaps, because it's not a handicap, but they have learning disabilities.
Okay.
And he chose that path to give himself to these kids that needed a mentor, not more or less an employee or employer. They needed someone that would listen to him
Okay.
or them.
Right.
So sometimes kids have a hard time expressing themselves, but they don't get heard.
Yeah, that's so true.
You know, it's so tough, because, you know, you talk to them, but you don't wait for them to answer you back. And Kenny was a different person. He would talk with them and wait for their reply.
He was really hearing them. Really hearing them. And I had been there at the house too. So listeners, the jig is up here. We are dear friends, Donette and I, for many years.
Yes.
And I've been there when he's brought some of the clients home with permission, of
Yes.
course. And they absolutely adored him. Like, they were his little my buddy. It's so funny how that cycle went 360. He
Right.
had a my buddy from some of the clients. One person stands out in particular. I won't mention their name, but that was like, I don't want to say favorite, but I feel like it was a favorite.
Yes.
You know what I mean? They had a special bond. And I was so impressed with the gentleness that Kenny applied, and the realness too. The thing about him is he didn't talk down to these kids, and he didn't treat them like less than. He treated them like equals, and he helped, I think, elevate their own vibration by making them feel part of a world that sometimes had shut them out.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
He was expert at that.
Yeah, there was, they would almost fight for his attention.
Yeah.
Just to be in his presence. It was amazing how, you know, this 28-year-old young man still learning himself and getting to adjust with life and learning life had such a gentle hand when it came to children that didn't have patience for their own well-being.
Right.
They didn't understand themselves. But yet he sat down and took the time with them to make them feel special.
and keep them updated and included in the world. So if it was a song that was new or popular, he was talking to them about it. If there was a phone that was coming out, he included them. It was kind of like having the cool guy befriend you is what it felt like to me. You know, like when you're in high school, like having the cool guy kind of say, hey, come on over, sit at our table. And we've all had different experiences in our life, but I think Kenny provided them with something that they didn't get in their regular life. And what Kendall did could not be taught. He had a gift and a talent, I believe. It wasn't like
Absolutely.
you could learn it in a training session. He was doing an authentic thing. I really believe he was embodying his purpose in life, not just living and existing. He was actually affecting the lives of others, which is all we can ask for while we're here, is to really find what we're meant to do and what our calling is. So
Okay.
I felt like he really did that. But we're gonna shift a little, because now that you guys have gotten to know just a tiny bit about Kenny, and trust me, that just only scratches the surface into the kind of guy that he is. So I feel terrible that we don't have hours to go on, because we really could, about his character and who he was. I wanted, we at the start of the show, I said, you know, we are 5 years to the day almost when this situation happened. And I wanted to know, what was March 23rd? Today that the show is airing is going to be the 22nd. What was March 23rd like for you 5 years ago, Donette?
Wow. You know, Monette, I can't believe that it's been 5 years.
Nor I.
It's honestly 5 years too long. It's a tragic situation that happened that still has not been solved, his case. My nephew was taken from us, and his life was taken from him on that day. I remember the day very well. I'll never forget it.
Right.
I remember being at work, and I was getting phone call after phone call, but didn't realize it. But I never turned my ringer off when I got to work. And that's how I ended up getting directed to my phone, because I said, I left my phone and didn't turn the ringer off. So
that's interesting to me, because you are so studious. I mean, this woman, you guys don't know, is like always winning best worker awards. So that's funny to me that you, or best employee of the month, or all this kind of stuff, being singled out for her excellence. It's funny to me that you didn't turn off your ringer. I mean, it's almost faded to me, really.
It is funny, but I also feel like it's God's work.
Absolutely.
There was a reason why my phone was not shut off, and it was all in place.
Right. I didn't mean to interrupt you. So you were saying you were getting the calls.
I was getting calls in, and one of my managers came out and said, I think your phone is ringing. And I said, I didn't realize I didn't shut it off. So she's like, it's fine. You know, I just didn't know if somebody was trying to reach you. So I said, okay, I'll go back and check on it. And long story short, I went in the back and checked it, and I looked, and I had about 8 or 9 missed calls, and I had several texts, and I had several voice messages. And at first I was like, well, what's going on? Why am I getting so many calls? And I looked back, and I started to view through my call log, and I seen where my mom had called, I seen where my brother had called, I seen some other unknown numbers that was coming up that I wasn't familiar with, that I had programmed in my phone. And I seen some text and some voice, and so I went back and I played my voicemail, and I can hear my mom's voice on there, and she was, her voice was kind of crackling like something was wrong, and she was holding back on something, but she told me, she needed me to call. I need to call her as soon as possible. Kenny was hurt. So, I immediately started to panic, so I looked, and now my brother's sending me a text and telling me to call him ASAP. So got my phone, go to a landline, I call my brother, because I felt like, you know what, maybe I can understand a little bit better from my brother as opposed to my mom, because she just sounded like she was just going through so many things. So I didn't start to panic until I talked to my brother, and he said, he explained to me something had happened, it was emergency, and I needed your help, and I needed you to be there for your sister, because, it's not a good situation. So I immediately left, went to be by her side, and I felt like that